Amazing street person reveals incredible heroism by saving female officer after shocking discover. Mike crouched behind the vivid mural he had painted, a powerful testament to his father's lessons on integrity and loyalty. Each brushstroke, each vibrant hue, whispered the stories of not only his life, but also the lives of those who walked these streets. Yet, at that moment, he felt an emptiness that threatened to swallow him whole. The aroma of street sausages wafted across the gritty corner, reminding him of joy he'd long abandoned. The noise of Philadelphia pulsed like a heartbeat, but he felt light years away from the life he dreamed of. He had been a promising art student, bursting with ambition before the weight of hardship crushed his aspirations. Now, his home was a thin blanket and a crevice that offered little more than a fleeting sense of safety. Today, as he tried to channel his anguish into art, a confrontation tore through the fabric of his existence like a jagged edge. Officer Jenna stood firm on the sidewalk, her taser drawn but quivering in her grip. The menacing figure before her loomed closer, shadows dancing against the fading sunlight. Mike's heart raced as he watched. The tension prickling in the air was stifling. His father's voice surged within him, urging him to act, but doubts clawed at his mind. What could someone like him even do? Just another homeless man, right? Before he thought twice, he lunged for a spray can, the only weapon he had. "This is for something bigger than me," he muttered under his breath, as he hurled the can against the pavement. The sound exploded like a gunshot, briefly startling the man who threatened Jenna. In that precious moment of distraction, she regained her composure, readying herself for the situation, while Mike felt adrenaline electrifying him, driving him to intervene further. "Call the cops! Call for backup!" he shouted, though he was merely a ghost moving unseen. Before Mike could breathe, flashing lights flooded the street. Jenna subdued the assailant, but the chaos that followed left him trembling. Suddenly, he was thrust into the light of a hero, yet whispers cut through the cheers, "Just another street guy." How could strength create such vulnerability? The weight of judgment wrapped around him like the very blanket he clutched at night. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Days passed, but the halo of heroism felt suffocating. The ritual of painting beneath his mural turned into a feverish cycle. Each stroke seeped with confusion. Was he truly a savior or merely a reflection of society's bias? The honor felt sticky, like dry paint on his palms, never washing away the stains of judgment. Then came the shocking discovery hidden within his father's belongings. A family secret, blurred edges of his identity that whispered of connections he had yet to grasp fully. As he stood before the mural, an echo of his father's voice resonated. "Will you stand up for your story, Mike?" With a maelstrom of emotions swirling inside him, the pressure mounted. To embrace this new reality meant confronting a delicately balanced identity, one that combined his past failures, the newfound spotlight, and the very essence of his father's teachings. Would he falter under societal scrutiny, or rise like the vibrant murals that celebrated survival against all odds? The noise around him heightened as Mike attempted to tune out the accolades pouring in from the crowd following the incident. Friends, acquaintances, and even strangers filled the street, their eyes lingering on him, the homeless man who had bravely intervened. Yet, instead of pride plumbing in his chest, the attention wrapped tighter around him like a vice, squeezing the air from his lungs. He was not a hero. He was a man tangled in the throes of uncertainty. Days blurred into one another as whispers of his actions spread through the city. Mike found himself propelled into conversations, unsolicited interviews from local media, the shouts of children who now recognized him not as a mere specter, but as someone worthy of admiration. The irony of it all stung like a fresh cut. They failed to realize that he was just as lost inside as he had always been. Sitting on a patch of cracked concrete, he reached for his spray cans. An overwhelming desire to express himself flared within him, coupled with an unshakable fear of what to say. Each swirl of color had once flowed effortlessly from his fingertips, but now, weighed down by the new expectations, he hesitated. A new mural was looming in his mind, a kaleidoscope of emotions he had yet to understand. With every brushstroke, he found a semblance of clarity amid the chaos, reflecting the turmoil within. The colors morphed into shapes, revealing a shadowed figure reaching out for help. Was it him or every person lost in the folds of the city? The lines blurred, and he felt power surging through him, fueled both the urgency of his newfound fame and the torment of his unseen struggles. Mike stepped back, wiping sweat from his brow. What was it to be a hero when so many remain unseen? People painted him in a light that illuminated one act, yet failed to see the darkness wrapping around him. This duality of perception hung heavy on his shoulders. Uncertain, he considered the implications of the mural beneath his brush, a public representation of private turmoil. The secret he discovered amongst his father's possessions nagged at him, a soft tug on his conscience. It felt like the last puzzle piece in a jigsaw, desperately waiting to fit. This was not just about reputation anymore. There was a legacy to unravel, a lineage that connected him to something beyond his circumstances. He paced the alley, anxiety coursing through him, blurring the boundaries between his past and future. Would he dig into this newfound identity or let it lay dormant like so much else in his life? The thought of confronting it sent another wave of self-doubt washing over him. But in the flicker of streetlights, Mike saw an opportunity, a pathway to reclaim himself while shedding the weight of judgment. The moment to act surged forward, pushing him to hit the streets not just as a transient artist, but as someone worthy of standing in his own truth. He realized that he could use his voice to shape narratives, not just his own, but those of others who felt similarly trapped. Exploring this new chapter meant confronting the societal norms he had battled against. Are you strong enough to embrace your legacy? The echo of his father taunted from the back of his mind. It became clear he had roots to discover, waiting to burst into new colors. With reluctant resolve, Mike clenched his brush tighter. His voice quaked against a backdrop of muted colors as they began to swirl into place. The call of discovery thrummed within him, but the shadows loomed. Was he prepared to face who he truly was? The glow of the streetlights faded behind him as he stepped forward into a chilling uncertainty, confronting the truth tangled within his past and the fear he carried along with it. In the midst of realization, a haunting thought caught his breath. What if the legacy left behind was more than he bargained for? Tomorrow would unveil what lay beyond the surface, shedding light on what awaited as he ventured deeper into the enigma surrounding his family's history. Would he find empowerment or merely a reflection of his past? Mike's fingers trembled as he stepped back from his newly emerging mural, the outlines of his thoughts growing clearer, yet the fears remained unmistakably sharp. Each stroke he made seemed to unravel threads from the tapestry of his past. But there was always a question lurking beneath the surface. What would he find if he tugged at those threads? He spent the next few days engulfed in his artistic expression, the colors swirling around him like a whirlwind of emotions. Still, a growing unease niggled at him. As people flocked to witness his transformation from street artist to something akin to a local hero, It added weight to his already staggering sense of obligation. In the back of his mind, the notion persisted. If he was to embrace this newfound identity and legacy, he needed to uncover the truth of his lineage. It started with a single thought. He needed answers. The lies and half-truths surrounding his family taunted him, daring him to investigate further. Until now, they had remained a distant concern, buried under layers of neglect and survival. Yet the mere idea of diving into the history his father left behind ignited a flame of determination within him. It was time to shed light on the obscured parts of his life. One evening, after a particularly intense mural session, Mike wandered back to the derelict building he had called home for months. The flickering fluorescent lights outside highlighted the shadows creeping around the corners, and with a deep breath, he pushed the door open. The musty air welcomed him back, reminding him of both warmth and the weight of abandonment. There in the corner, he found the box he'd left untouched, his father's belongings, a microscopic window into the past he was now set on confronting. Inside, papers crumpled with age, photographs faded to a grainy semblance of life. As he rifled through them, a sense of urgency filled him. Who had his father been beyond the projections of shame that haunted him? One photograph caught his attention. A young man standing proud in a uniform Mike did not recognize. His heart raced as he turned it over to find the words "dedicated to service" etched on the back, along with a date that seemed to echo from a different era. This might be the key to understanding the man who had shaped his existence before largely vanishing into obscurity. Questions piled up, churning in his mind. Could his father's legacy offer a glimpse into a future different from the one Mike had been living? As the realization struck him, the weight of expectations settled back onto his shoulders. He could not afford to let this slip away. To uncover, to confront the past would mean everything, or could lead him spiraling into depths he may not be ready to face. The next morning, fueled by the urgency of discovery, he resolved to track down anyone who might know about his father's life. But as he walked through his neighborhood, a nervous energy buzzed around him. The shadows of doubt crept in again. What if the legacy wasn't something to embrace, but was filled with darkness he was unprepared for? What if the truths he unearthed shattered the fragile identity he was trying to build? He paused, the streets bustling around him, people engaging in their routine, while he stood there grappling with the upcoming confrontation of his identity. It felt inevitable. There could be no growth without understanding the roots that once fed him. As he descended into this personal excavation, Mike understood he was not merely seeking details of his father's past, he was also embarking on the harrowing journey of unveiling his own identity. With apprehension and determination coursing through him, he took the first cautious steps towards a future that could redefine everything he thought he was. Can the truth of a legacy strengthen a man or shadow him completely? The weight of that question loomed heavily in his thoughts as he prepared to unearth the secrets buried beneath the surface. The time had come, and as he tightened his grip on the worn photograph, he made his way toward the unknown, a confrontation with his past that would echo through the present and beyond. Would he be ready for what he might find? The streets hummed with life as Mike stepped away from the comfort of his thoughts, the photograph still gripped in his hand. Each face he passed felt alien, distanced by his own turmoil and the looming questions about his father. He needed to put a name to the uniform in the picture, a mission that felt more daunting than any mural he had ever painted. Mike's first stop was the local library, a place he hadn't visited in ages. The musty smell of aging books brought back memories of dusty corners and quiet contemplation. He sat down at a computer terminal, heart racing as he delved into online archives. His fingers flew across the keys, searching for any mention of the name listed on the back of the photograph. As the screen filled with information, a mix of exhilaration and dread welled inside him. What if he learned things that changed everything? Hours later, Mike sat hunched over a pile of printed articles, the glow of the screen barely flickering in the dim light of the library. Hints of his father's past started to emerge, but they were interspersed with stories of conflict and sacrifice. Each article peeled back layers he was unprepared for, revealing a man not just defined by abandonment, but also by bravery. A soldier who had served in a war Mike struggled to comprehend. With every new detail, conflicting emotions surged within him. Was this the legacy he sought? Someone fearless, honorable, yet still so deeply flawed. Mike wrestled with the realization that this newfound identification with his father might serve to elevate or utterly crush him. The weight of those unanswered questions settled like lead in his stomach. If he uncovered more about this warrior spirit, could he also discover the heartache that had driven him away? Dusk fell outside, and the library began to empty. Reluctantly, he gathered his belongings, yet the urge to dive deeper into this narrative consumed him. As he stepped into the cool evening air, the vibrant colors of his mural flashed through his mind like a beacon. It was a visual encapsulation of the chaos of his present, a tension between discovery and fear. But fear was no longer an option. With each step, determination surged unbidden, fueled by a melding of past and present. Mike made his way to the barber shop, an unassuming place, but one he knew was often frequented by older veterans from the neighborhood. Inside, the clippers buzzed, and laughter mingled with the scent of fading pomade. Mike approached the sole barber, an older man with silver hair and wise eyes. "Excuse me, sir, I need to ask you about someone, a soldier. His name was—" He hesitated. The weight of the name lodged in his throat. He finally managed, "James Calder." The barber paused, his hands stilling mid-cut. "Calder? Ah, yes. He was a good man, had a heart of gold." Each word marked a stone in the foundation of Mike's identity. "Tell me more," Mike urged. The barber's face melded into a tapestry of memories, each story weaving threads of a hero, a man who was his father. As the evening wore on, details emerged, stories of valor and sacrifice intertwined with whispers of struggle and regret. Mike felt both proud and painfully aware of the distance that had separated him from understanding his father, a man shaped by battles far beyond the physical realms. With newfound resolve, Mike absorbed this legacy, though questions still loomed. It was a bittersweet awakening, one that thrust him into the spotlight of his own life, encouraging him to confront the shadows lurking behind every brushstroke, every image he projected to the world. As he stood to leave, he clutched the photograph tightly in his hand. This was only the beginning. Each revelation would lead him closer to uncovering the man behind the myths. What else might he learn before this journey was over? Would these pieces of the past shatter the very image he had begun to build, or give him the strength to transform it into something even greater? The tension hung thick in the air, urging him onward, deeper into the realm of truth he had created for himself. He stepped out into the night, ready to confront whatever awaited him, knowing that the final battle for his identity had just begun. The following morning, Mike awoke with a sense of urgency that pushed him from the confines of his bed. The photograph of his father felt heavier on the bedside table, as if urging him to act. He glanced at it before heading into the shower, water washing over him, but the lingering warmth of discovery left him unusually unsettled. What awaited in uncovering more layers? After a cup of hastily brewed coffee, he decided to follow another thread woven from last night's revelations. The name James Calder echoed in his mind, a name attached not only to a haunting legacy, but also to intricate stories that demanded to be unraveled. With his fingers trembling slightly from anticipation, he penned a list of questions that had begun to take residence in his thoughts. Where did his father serve? What battles had marked his tenure? Absent-mindedly, he wandered through neighborhood paths until he found his footing in a local diner, one that had seen better days, yet held echoes of conversations long past. Sitting at the counter, he observed the regulars, each face telling its own story of survival. He couldn't help but wonder if they carried secrets of their own. Could they share connections with his father or shed light on his absence? His coffee grew cold as he gathered courage, but the prospect of discovering more about James fueled him. He approached the waitress, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes that hinted at untold stories. "Excuse me, ma'am, mind if I ask you about a soldier? His name was James Calder." Her gaze sharpened, and she immediately nodded. "Calder? He was part of a unit that faced some tough battles in Nam, wasn't he? I remember a few stories." Mike felt his heart race. As the waitress recounted tales of courage amidst chaos, Mike recognized fragments of himself reflected in each word, bravery that resonated closely with the murals he painted. His father's trials had etched complexity into his character, confronting not just the enemy, but defining who he was as a man. Still, there was something troubling in the corners of those stories. With each sip of his now lukewarm coffee, he recognized a subtle undercurrent of pain, consequences that were borne not solely by those who fought, but also by their families left behind. The emotions weighed on him, exposing an internal struggle that mirrored the brushstrokes of conflict on his canvases. "Did he have any regrets?" Mike asked, voice slightly trembling as he sought deeper understanding. The waitress paused, hesitant. "That war changed him, I guess. Changed a lot of them. Those who came back carried burdens that lived on well after the battles ended." The response echoed through Mike's mind, revealing a harsh reality he hadn't anticipated. The potential heroism of his father was now shadowed by a darkness pervading every triumph. This duality, of seeking honor while grappling with wounds unseen, began to unravel the fabric of the image he had formed. As he left the diner, doubt crept in. With every new detail about his father's bravery came the reminder of the familial bond fractured by choices rooted in fear, loss, and grief. How could he honor a man whose legacy could be so tumultuous? The emotional toll was becoming evident, his hunger for understanding now tinged with the fear of what the truth might uncover. Back on the streets, a new layer of tension emerged. Each passerby a potential key to further insights, but also a reminder of the emotional battlefield he navigated. Mike needed to confront this new reality head-on. He resolved to seek out veterans, not just to learn about his father's heroism, but also to understand the deeper ramifications of those unshared experiences. With a determined spirit, Mike prepared to delve further into his father's past. This wasn't just about uncovering facts, it was about casting a wider net into the lives of others marked by similar struggles. The time had come for a different confrontation, not just with his father's past, but with the unvarnished truths of those who remained behind, a reflection of who he was becoming. But as he stepped forward, the deeper question loomed. Could he truly forge an identity for himself grounded in these revelations, or would the unraveling of the past consume him entirely? The path ahead glimmered with potential, yet loomed with uncertainty, urging him to take the next leap into darkness or illumination. What awaited him among the voices of those who bore witness to his father's life, and the truths they might hold about his own? Questions swirled in Mike's mind as he left the diner, each one pulling him deeper into a labyrinth of curiosity and trepidation. What would he uncover by connecting with veterans, the men and women who witnessed the same tumultuous history his father had? Each step along the pavement felt heavier, as if responsibility weighed on his shoulders. He reassured himself that he wasn't simply seeking the glory of a name. He was searching for context, for truth hidden beneath the bravado of a soldier's legacy. He passed by storefronts with peeling paint and flickering neon signs, eyes scanning for a glimpse of anyone who might represent the fragments of his father's life. The streets, once familiar, now mirrored the inner chaos he battled. Nearby, a community center caught his attention. Posters advertised meetings for veterans, their faces bold, some depicting solemn pride, others an unspoken pain. The simple act of entering seemed monumental, reminiscent of entering a battlefield where vulnerability stood in stark contrast to any expected valor. Mike hesitated at the door, the pull of his father's choices trailing behind him. With a deep breath, he stepped inside. The air was charged with muted conversations, laughter, and stories intertwined with a sense of camaraderie. He approached a small group of men seated at a round table. Their eyes, weathered yet warm, acknowledged his presence. He introduced himself, feeling the weight of his name, the Calder name, a badge he had not earned yet. "I'm looking for anyone who knew James Calder," he stammered, words pouring out with urgency. He felt exposed, like a painter opting for bold strokes without knowing how the canvas would react. A man with a grizzled beard considered him for a moment, then nodded slowly. Calder? Good guy. Stood up for his brothers, but he carried the weight of regret too. The words hung in the air as the collective memory swirled around him, binding him with unseen threads. Intrigued, yet disconcerted, Mike absorbed their stories of bravery mixed with trauma. With each testimonial, he witnessed the turbulence of a shared history, the aftermath of their shared battlefield, transforming not just soldiers, but also the families they returned to. Heroes in combat, but haunted by specters of guilt. He found himself empathizing not only with his father's struggles, but with the men recounting their own. The burdens they carried were reflections of his father's. Mike recognized within himself the flicker of a burgeoning resolve. His canvas of understanding had expanded, and under the surface, colors began to blend into a complex portrait of forgiveness and acceptance. As an elder veteran recounted a particularly harrowing tale, Mike's thoughts drifted to his own artistic journey. Would his creation, a mural dedicated to this legacy, speak truthfully about the duality of heroism and pain? Could he channel not only the valor of his father, but also the haunting shadows left in the wake of war? But hitting that emotional wall prompted a question he hadn't anticipated. How far could he go in illuminating his father's truth without risking the safety of his own artistry? These men had lived through wars, and he could only paint the aftermath. Could his vocation serve as a bridge to healing, or would it entrap him in the same cycles of despair? The hours passed as stories flowed, each one adding to the evolving tapestry of realizations within him. He could see himself working alongside these veterans not only as an artist, but as a member of their community, a bridge between worlds. Yet as he prepared to leave, a nagging doubt surfaced. Would he truly be able to transform these shared experiences into something meaningful, or would he retreat into the shadows of his own insecurities? How would the confrontation with the uncomfortable truths of his father shape his own understanding of love, loss, and legacy? Stepping outside, the sun dipped low, casting long shadows that reflected the duality of his intent, to evoke beauty from pain. One truth resonated deeply within him. The moment of reckoning had arrived, both for his father and for himself. He could not shy away from what lay ahead. Pushing past uncertainty, Mike resolved to paint the mural that would tell his father's story, but also serve as a canvas for emotional catharsis. What would he discover about himself in this creative pursuit, and how deeply would the past intertwine with his present? The studio awaited him, full of blank canvases and possibility, But would he have the courage to face the ultimate truth? Inside the studio, silence enveloped Mike like a thick fog. The white walls, so blank and bare, invited him to unleash the storm of emotions that churned within. His heart raced as he grabbed a brush, hovering over the canvas like a falcon poised to dive. What story would he tell? While the adrenaline thrummed in his veins, doubt nibbled at the edges of his resolve. Would he be able to capture the complexity of the truth he had gleaned from the veterans? He began with broad strokes, layers of paint mixing on the palette, a whirl of colors emblematic of his confused feelings. The bold reds and somber blues reflected not only his father's past, but the torment of countless others who had walked similar paths. Yet Mike's mind raced with uncertainty. Was he equipped to relay the guilt and regret that shaped those lives? What if he misinterpreted their experiences? Compelled by an urgency to translate his revelations onto the canvas, he turned to the sketches he had made during the conversations at the community center. Pushing against his fears, he focused on creating a visual context that paid homage to both the sacrifices and the scars. Each line he traced reminded him of the stories woven through the veterans' voices. But shadows loomed, taunting him with the specter of failure. An intrusive thought slithered through his mind. What if he painted the mural and it fell short, lacking depth? The fear of inadequacy burned within him. How could he risk revealing his father's truth if it might expose his own limitations? His brush hesitated above the canvas, a commuter paralyzed at a green light, uncertain of whether to advance. He exhaled sharply, the need to push through the block pressing down on him like a weight. Closing his eyes, he summoned the memories of the veterans. Their laughter mixed with harrowing truths, the sense of a brotherhood that transcended time. Each shared moment echoed, clawing at his heart until he recalled a subtle but piercing quote from the grizzled veteran. He stood up for his brothers. With renewed determination, Mike plunged his brush into the vibrant colors, aiming for a creating energy rather than perfection. He allowed the emotions to take charge. The rhythm of his strokes mimicked the heartbeat of those he sought to represent. It wasn't merely about aesthetics, it was a fervent plea for understanding. The act of painting became his confrontation, each stroke a testament to battles fought both on and off the field. Hours morphed into an undefined blur as Mike continued to immerse himself in this ferocious dance with the canvas. His uncertainty had transformed into an eagerness, an invigorating commitment to channel not only his own anxieties but also those of the veterans. Yet even as the colors blended into a chaotic but beautiful narrative, a lingering fear resurfaced within him. How would his father's legacy emerge from this creation? Would the surprising, painful truths fracture the image he held of the man he had idolized? The question pressed like a vice around his chest. In choosing to unveil the enigma of his father's life, would Mike still recognize his own identity? Outside, the world carried on, oblivious to the metamorphosis unfolding within the studio's four walls. But for Mike, each minute felt steeped in significance. The looming tension that accompanied his thoughts now sharpened his focus, pushing him deeper into this creative abyss that he both feared and craved. Just as he began to find a rhythm, the studio door creaked open. A figure stood silhouetted in the doorway. The moment hung heavy with potential. Mike squinted, drawn to the presence, his breath hitching slightly as the silhouette entered, bringing with it a wave of uncertainty and anticipation. Who was this new presence, and how would they challenge or enlighten his unfolding journey? Mike turned to face the intruder, the brush hovering above the canvas and the vibrant colors waiting to burst forth. The figure stepped into the light, revealing itself to be a woman with a wild mess of curly hair and expressive eyes that seemed to dig right into his soul. There was something about her presence that felt electric, charged with a sense of urgency that matched the intensity of his creative struggle. "Sorry to interrupt," she said, breaking the silence that had cloaked the studio. "I heard about your work. Mind if I take a look?" Reluctance gnawed at him, but curiosity overshadowed the hesitation. He motioned for her to come closer, unsure of how to articulate the depth of what he was trying to capture, but feeling an unexpected urge to share. As she stepped forward, he noticed her attire, a worn leather jacket, untamed spirit radiating from her stance, like she had fought battles of her own. "What's it about?" she asked, taking in the chaotic swirl of colors that reflected both despair and hope. "It's a tribute," he replied, finally finding his voice. "To my father and the veterans who served alongside him. Their stories, they haunt me." She nodded, her gaze fixed on the artwork. "You're trying to give them a voice. That's brave." The word ignited something in him, a flicker of courage he didn't know he had. "But what if I get it wrong? What if I misrepresent them?" "Art is subjective. It's not about perfection. It's about truth," she replied, her tone unwavering. "They lived it. You're giving it life." Her words resonated with him, a reminder of the urgency he had felt when he first picked up the brush. In that moment, he felt a shift. The doubts that had clung like shadows began to dissipate, replaced by a budding confidence. "Then I have to honor that truth, right?" he said, looking at her with new clarity. "Exactly," she smiled. "But remember, truth can be messy. It's okay to let that show. If they fought through chaos, so should your art." His heart thrummed in response, as if it were finally in tune with the rhythm of creation. Here was an ally, unexpected but welcomed, illuminating a path through his internal turmoil. Inspired by her conviction, Mike picked up his brush once again and started to paint with reckless abandon, each stroke fueled by a newfound resolve. As he worked, the woman observed with a keen eye, occasionally offering her insights that sowed seeds of clarity in his chaotic thoughts. "What about the brotherhood, the support system they created, even in the darkest times?" she prompted at one point. He paused, recognizing that she was right. He had focused heavily on the individual struggles, but the strength drawn from camaraderie needed to be reflected too. Adding deeper shades of green and yellow, he began to portray the bonds forged in adversity, interspersed with splashes of hope. Time reset itself in that petite studio, the outside world fading into a distant hum as Mike poured his heart onto the canvas. As he worked, the woman observed with a keen eye, occasionally offering her insights that sowed seeds of clarity in his chaotic thoughts. "What about the brotherhood, the support system they created, even in the darkest times?" she prompted at one point. He paused, recognizing that she was right. He had focused heavily on the individual struggles, but the strength drawn from camaraderie needed to be reflected too. Adding deeper shades of green and yellow, he began to portray the bonds forged in adversity, interspersed with splashes of hope. Time reset itself in that petite studio, the outside world fading into a distant hum as Mike poured his heart onto the canvas. The soles of his shoes became cemented alongside an unseen veteran family, each stroke an echo of silent vows and heroism that challenged the darkness of regret. "Much better," she whispered, her presence steadying his pacing heart. "Now it feels alive." They lost themselves in the work, as Mike embodied the veteran stories, each brushstroke reeling him closer to the warrior spirit he admired in his father. And as the mural began to take shape, he felt himself confronting not only past shadows, but his very own identity. Yet, just as he found a momentum that felt unshakable, a chilling reality seeped in. What if, in revealing such depth, he would fracture not only the image of his father, but layer contradictions over the legacy he held dear? A sense of unease gripped him, and he struggled to breathe, feeling the weight of the truth yet to be confronted. "Mike?" The woman's voice snapped him back to reality, her eyes searching his, a mixture of concern and inquiry evident. "What's wrong?" He hesitated, weighing the implications of his revelation. The fears that had seemed tame coiled tighter in his gut. What if the truth isn't just painful? What if it breaks everything I thought I knew? The moment vibrated with tension as her expression shifted, an understanding passing between them. The time had come to face that truth, Mike. You can't forge a community just on the good parts. It's time to challenge what you thought you knew. His heart raced with anticipation, the stakes suddenly elevated. Standing at the precipice of discovery, image and legacy clashing, Mike felt both vulnerable and empowered. It was a moment of reckoning, and he was teetering on the edge of an important decision. Would he rise to the challenge, or would he retreat once more into familiar fear? As the world spun around him, clarity began to form in the chaos. It was time to confront the art of storytelling, his own story, and the stories that echoed within the strokes of his brush. In this convergence lay the potential for his growth, but the question remained: would he muster the courage to face his father's truth, and in doing so, reveal the man he was meant to become? The silence loomed again, but it felt different now, charged with possibility. Mike took a step back from the canvas, his breath hitching in his throat. Each stroke felt wrapped in a fragility that mirrored his own internal strife. What lay before him was not simply paint on a surface. It was an exploration of legacy, a confrontation of pain that threatened to unravel the very fabric of his understanding. The woman watched him with unwavering intensity, a calmness emanating from her that felt like an anchor. "You've built a powerful narrative," she said softly, as if sensing his tumultuous thoughts. "But it's clear that you're holding back. Why?" Her question pierced through the layers of his hesitation, inviting profound introspection that he had long avoided. A lifetime of assumptions crowded his mind, each demanding attention. His father's stories, the glorified version that had been imprinted in his childhood, and the unsettling truths that tugged at the corners of his perception. "I guess I fear what I'll find," Mike confessed, a quiver in his voice reflecting the tension tightening around his chest. "What if the truth about my father isn't who I thought he was? What if it shatters my memory of him?" "You have to decide what matters more, the image he left you, or the man he was," she replied, her gaze unwavering. "Art reveals both. Let it do its work." He felt an electric jolt at her words. She was right. The narrative he was creating needed to encompass everything, the flaws and the fears, just as much as the heroism. But doing so meant diving into an abyss he had long feared, staring into the complexities of familial love intertwined with disappointment. The brush trembled in his hand as he returned to the canvas, the colors almost pleading to be released. With each stroke, he wove the duality of his father's story, the decorated soldier and the man burdened by unspoken truths. Shadows of dark blues and fiery reds mingled with hopeful greens and yellows, representing the intricate web of emotions he struggled to articulate. "Show me the scars, Mike," she encouraged. "The wounds of battle don't vanish just because time moves on. Paint your truth and find your strength in vulnerability." That directive thrust a wave of determination through him, washing over the fears that had kept him paralyzed. Scars, interwoven lives, it all belonged in the narrative he was sculpting. Taking a deep breath, he began layering harsh lines, depicting turmoil, moments of conflict, as well as grace, laying bare the essence of what it meant to fight, not just on the battlefield, but within the walls of familial love. With newfound urgency, he delved deeper into the amalgamation of colors. The mural transformed into a tapestry of resilience and pain, a story that was finally coming alive. Sweat glistened on his brow as he moved, each stroke unearthing fresh revelations about the man he sought to honor, yet was terrified to misrepresent. What lay behind him became ethereal as the work surpassed its original intent. It sparked within him a clarity that began unraveling shadows of doubt. In peeling back the layers, he learned he wasn't merely confronting his father. He was penning his own narrative, one rooted in authenticity rather than inherited myths. Just as his momentum grew, a sharp pang of hesitation struck once more. What if I make it worse? What if this doesn't honor him? What if— "Stop," the woman interrupted, her voice now fierce with conviction. "You are honoring him. The truth lives in the fears you feel. It exists in the struggle, the triumph, and even in the contradictions. This is how legacies evolve." The weight of her words lingered. He could choose to remain teetering on the edge of his apprehension or dive deeper. Art had become his battlefield, a space where he could challenge his narrative, redefine his understanding, and most importantly, learn to embrace the nuances of his father's journey. Inspiration rumbled in the depths of his mind. The stakes had escalated, a fertile ground for revelation burgeoning beneath his fingertips. Would he take that leap into the truth, accepting both the beauty and the flaws that came with it? As he gazed at the mural that twisted and turned like a winding road, another thought crept in. How would the world perceive this newfound narrative? Just as momentum surged, he found the door of uncertainty creaking open, unveiling the next chapter of not just his artwork, but of his own identity. The air felt electric with potential, and he found himself simultaneously paralyzed and invigorated. The next stroke held the promise of change, a choice to face whatever lay ahead. The chapter was poised for a release of secrets that could shift everything he believed to be true. The thought sent shivers down his spine. What fragment of the past would emerge, and more critically, what would it mean for the man he aspired to become? Fueled by newfound insights and perseverance, Mike immersed himself in the mural, each brushstroke transforming into a powerful declaration of identity. The journey he embarked upon while unraveling the complexities of his father's legacy radiated through the vibrant colors on the canvas. Red for courage, blue for sorrow, and flecks of gold symbolizing resilience. The mural became a living testament to not only his father's battles, but also Mike's own odyssey of self-discovery. Days turned into weeks, and the mural blossomed under his relentless dedication. Conversations with veterans and the warmth of the woman who initially disrupted his solitude guided him, each interaction elevating him further from the shadows of his previous life. The chaos he rendered onto the canvas mirrored the intricacies of his journey, pulling him towards a reconciliation with his heritage and a deeper understanding of who he was meant to be. As construction workers gathered around to witness the mural come to life, whispering words of admiration, Mike felt a foundation of confidence solidifying beneath his feet. The fearful artist, filled with doubt, had transformed into a courageous creator, using his artistry to echo both struggle and strength, battling the perceived limitations of their existence. The vibrant portrayal captured not just the glory of military service, but resonated with every dark corner the men faced afterward, the forgotten battles fought long after returning home. With each passing day, the mural gained traction, eliciting admiration from the community. The local news began to cover the story, spotlighting Mike not just as a street artist, but a significant voice in the narrative of veteran struggles. Recognition blossomed around him, changing the way he saw himself. No longer did he merely occupy a space on the streets, he now stood firmly in the arena of artistic expression. However, uncertainty still percolated like an undercurrent. Questions about whether he could truly honor his father's complexities, face to face with the reality of legacy, threatened to dim his newfound light. What if it's not enough, he mused, battling with internal voices that echoed doubt. Yet, the woman's encouragement reverberated in his mind. Art is about truth, she had said, her conviction coupled with warmth, a reminder that authenticity spoke louder than perfection. One evening, as he added the final touches, fatigue weighed down his limbs. yet joy pulsed through him. Every stroke was a shout against the darkness he had battled for years, a burst of color declaring that he was finally seen. In that moment, he recognized that he had not just created a legacy for his father, he had built one for himself. The murals of despair he had etched into the world were fading, replaced by layers of empowerment and understanding. The final unveiling approached, excitement bubbling within him. With each passing day, more members of the community gathered, drawn by the allure of transformation and the tangible power of art. Onlookers came not just to witness a painting, but to witness rebirth, a coming together in acknowledgement of shared experiences. As the day of the reveal dawned, streetlights flickered and anticipation buzzed through the air. Mike stood tall, pulsing with confidence, no longer defined only by his past. With the support of new friends and allies he had unknowingly collected along the way, he prepared to share his journey, the battles fought, the scars revealed, and the voice he had finally found. When the canvas was unveiled, gasps swept through the crowd. Every figure emerged vividly, encapsulating pride and pain, shadows and highlights dancing together to reveal the tales of countless veterans alongside the absoluteness of his own revelation. The mural resonated deeper than art. It was a unifying force, sparking conversations that flooded through the crowd, bridging gaps with compassion and understanding. Among the faces he recognized, a sense of belonging anchored him. The weight of judgment was gone, eclipsed by a profound sense of accomplishment. His narrative had intertwined with the narratives of many, and that connection forged a new strength, an identity that had risen from the ashes of uncertainty. The murmurings of truth hung in the air, blooming into conversations of healing, not just stories of war, but of rebirth, survival, and the intricate dance of vulnerability. As the community applauded, tears of recognition glistened on his cheeks. For the first time, Mike felt liberated from the confines of the past, walking confidently into a future defined not by his insecurities or judgments, but by the resonance of shared struggles. The mural stood as a testament that out of darkness, light can emerge, beautiful, complex, and undeniably real. This journey had not just been about art or a father's legacy. It was a declaration from within that he was ready to embrace future possibilities. Mike stepped down from the platform, enveloped by the warmth of community, and felt a surge of belonging rush through him like a current of hope. Each day moving forward would be chiseling away at the boundaries that once defined who he was, fortified by authenticity and the wisdom gleaned from acknowledging his truth. In that whirlwind of realization, the murals of his past faded into the backdrop as he stood on the brink of transformation. The moment arrived not just as an art piece unveiled, but as Mike unveiled to himself. He had conquered what haunted him, but more importantly, he had reshaped it into something vibrant and worthwhile. Now, more than ever, it was time for others to embrace their own stories, allowing the truth within them to surface, just as he had finally embraced his own. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Your engagement matters.